Hey everyone, my name is Terry G. Thanks a lot for stopping by. If you can take a second, can you please subscribe? Take another second and hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. What we're going to talk about today is powerlessness, character defects, and yes, spirituality. And don't run for the hills or shut me off when I talk about spirituality, because I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking that spirituality is religion. It's not. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about HP, higher power stuff, okay? Stuff you hear in programs of recovery. You hear it a lot, spirituality. This is not a religious program. This is a spiritual program. And exactly is that. It's a spiritual journey that we're on. I don't care if you're in a program or you're just walking around in your life, spirituality can play a part in your life. It really can. It creates a healthy sense of self, and it helps you with your emotions. It really does. So why is it so important in recovery? Well, let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about the word powerlessness. What does powerless mean to you? What does it mean to you when it comes to addiction? What does it mean? People talk about it till they're blue in the face. I'm powerless over alcohol. Yeah, but what does it mean to you? Does it just mean if you drink, you're going to drink so much that you're going to end up in jail? Yeah, that's true. That's a sense of, powerlessness. You don't know what's going to happen. I'm powerless over my environment. I am powerless over my parents. I am powerless over people watching this video. I can't control other people. So that makes me powerless. But what about your emotions and your thinking? What about that kind of powerlessness? And that kind of powerlessness, I feel, that's what you're talking about when it comes to a program of recovery. The mental and emotional powerlessness that we of alcoholics, I know I'm an alcoholic, I don't know if you're an alcoholic, experience in our lives. For somebody who is an alcoholic to think that going back out drinking is an answer, well, that's insanity. But that's also a sense of powerlessness over their thoughts, over their feelings. That's powerlessness. So if we feel that we are powerless over people, places, and things, and over the drinking and over, pretty well everything we're taught, right? What is the alternative to that? What is the flip side of powerlessness? What is it? Of course, right? We all know what that is, right? Or maybe you haven't heard it like this before, but it's power, right? It's like you put a light bulb in, it's dark. It doesn't serve any purpose because it has no power. Once you plug it in, it illuminates, it shines bright, and it lights up a room. And that's because it has power. So let's talk about power in recovery. Where do we get our power? And how does powerlessness relate to character defects? How does that relate to character defects? Well, for myself, right, and this is only my opinion, right? You can have your opinion if you want, or you can relate to mine. When I am angry, that's one of my character defects, anger. When I am angry, what am I going to do? I'm going to express myself on the people, places, or things, act like an asshole, act like a jerk, lose my head, because I used to lose my head all the time. And why do I do that? Because it's lack of power. I need something from the other person. When I feel jealous or less than, what is that? That is powerlessness. That is powerlessness. My character defects demonstrate powerlessness in my life. That's what they do. And that's why it's hard for people to understand how to get over a character defect, or how to character defects, how can we help ourselves working through a character defect? You have to find the opposite of that. So what is the opposite of anger? Love and tolerance. So that would be the power, right? How do you find that power? How do you find the shut-off switch to anger? Through spirituality. That's how you find it. Because through spirituality, when I am angry and I feel like controlling something, and if I don't find a source of power, it leaves an emotional and a mental void void in me, so I might push harder for the anger. But if I back it up with spirituality, I find comfort in spirituality. Okay, for an example, right? I'm a bus driver. A guy gets on my bus and he says to me, you know, bus driver, you're late, you're an asshole, you're an effing jerk, I hate your guts, I'm gonna complain to you about your job. And you want to get angry at the SOB. I want to get angry at the SOB, right? Instead of that, you know what I say on my bus? God, you got that. It fills that void of getting angry and responding. When I feel jealous or I don't have what I need to have, like I need more money or I need a bigger house or, you know, those kind of material wants, right? That's a lack of power. That's powerlessness. And we all suffer from some level of greed in our lives or a false security that money's going to make us emotionally, spiritually, and mentally better in our lives. And it does. It's going to relieve the stress a little bit. But if you're very rich, they're all going to come at you and they're all going to want your money. You know, the relative that you never saw for a while, get rich and see they'll be banging on your door. So when you have a false sense that you need more in your life, what is that? That's a sense of powerlessness. And what fixes that is spirituality. Understanding that there's a greater purpose in your life. Understanding that, yeah, you have a house, you have an apartment, you got food in your fridge, you got a roof over your head. That's gratitude. Gratitude is a sense of spirituality. It's a sense of spirituality, gratitude. Spirituality plays such a big part in the human development of recovering alcoholics that it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable because basically, in a nutshell, we are powerless over everything. We really are. We're even powerless over our own bodies. You know, no one out there wants to get sick or have cancer. So technically, we're powerless over that. So when it comes to your character defects in your life, when it comes to that crazy thinking you don't know what to do with yourself, or you don't know how to handle things, like you're nervous going into a room, or you're nervous seeing your family, or you're afraid of walking into that driving test, or you're afraid to walk into that job interview, they're all symptoms of powerlessness. They just have different names. You know, you always hear it, right? Feel the fear, but do it anyways. That's a spiritual sentence. Feel the fear, but do it anyways. That's a spiritual sentence. It really is. How are you going to not be afraid, but do it? You know, get the courage, because the courage comes after it, right? It doesn't come before. The acknowledgement of courage is after. You feel the fear, right? Then you go into the situation. That's spirituality. That is spirituality. When you have a mentor or a sponsor or somebody that you trust and you're falling apart, you're losing your shit, for lesser words, right? That is powerlessness. That is, you feel powerless. You feel like a victim, maybe, or you feel like they hurt you. They're not unreal feelings. I'm not denying you of your feelings. I'm not taking away your lousy life. I'm not doing that. What I'm trying to say is that the human condition doesn't know how to handle powerlessness, our thoughts, our emotions. We don't know how to handle it. We don't know how to handle discomfort or uncertainty in our lives. We don't know how to handle it. You know, you go to the doctor and he tells you you got a bump on your lung. Automatically, you go to cancer, right? You need some spirituality, because it doesn't have to be cancer, right? But that's where we go. So spirituality has to come in to fill that void, to make us secure. A secular program, or a program that doesn't believe, or a life that doesn't believe in spirituality, is very hard. It's a very difficult life because we're always left with questions. We always feel not full of ourselves, like full of ourselves in a positive way. And we go around exerting our will on people. Either it's intellectual will, emotional will, anger will, whatever it is. And the same thing happens to a person who doesn't believe in spirituality or have a higher power and the character defects. Because in the end of the day, those character defects have to be soothed some way. They have to be soothed in a way that is appropriate for the way we're living our lives. And we used to soothe those character defects with booze. We used to soothe our powerlessness with booze. We used to soothe our anger with booze, our lust for booze, anger with booze, failure with booze. But now you can fill those voids, those spiritual voids that you once filled with booze, you can fill it with spirituality. The belief that something is better for you, the belief in that. And you can practice it in a little way. You don't have to sit there and meditate for 2 hours or walk around, tell people that you are more spiritual. Just learn to let things go and find a power greater than yourself, outside of yourself, that you believe will look after you. We all need it. We all need it, especially people in recovery. Most of us have come from dysfunctional backgrounds. Most of us, I don't know about you, but I was an abuser. I was an abuser and I was a thief and I was lazy. I was all those things. When I came in to a program of recovery, I was broken. I was broken. But one of my main things when I first sobered up was lack of power. I didn't know how I was going to get through that life without the alcohol, because alcohol made me feel, or at least a sense of powerful. It was my higher power. It was my spirituality. It was the answer to all my problems. It was the answer. But you know what the answer is now? A program of recovery and spirituality. Spirituality, a God of your understanding. For myself, it's the indigenous one, it's the creator. That will fill the void. And trust it. Trust that things are going to be okay. Trust it. Really. And trust that if you're angry at somebody, you get angry at somebody, that you can pull back and just let them live their life. Stop getting in the way of yourself. Just step aside and let the higher power work its magic. Because the world around us is exactly the way it's supposed to be. It's exactly the way it's supposed to be. That's why spirituality is so important. And that's why we have to find a higher power and understand that that power is good for us. And understand that that power will make us powerful when we feel the weakest. And what happens when you have spirituality? What happens when you feel powerlessness? What happens when you want to react to your character defects? The seventh thing there, the shortcomings. If you intervene with spirituality, talking to other people, because that's a spiritual way too, right? Talking to others in your program is a means of spirituality. It keeps us open, our mind open. It can move us forward in our recovery. And eventually, your recovery, your sobriety, you'll find that it'll make you more independent, having a more spiritual program. You'll start to understand what makes yourself tick. And you'll start understanding that you're doing the best you can in your life, and the people around you are doing the best they can. Our main thing in life, when it comes to my life, is support people, love people, understand that the world is not a nasty place and no one's out to get me, and people aren't out to get me. And the more love and the more ability to help other people is what it's all about. It's what it's all about. It really is. Did I love today? Was I kind today to others? And the third one, did I have fun doing it? And that, my friend, is what I live by. That is what I live by. So that's what this video is really about. It's about connecting some dots and letting people know that it's not magic. It's a way of life, but keep it simple and understand. Spirituality, when it comes to recovering addicts or alcoholics, plays a gigantic part in finding the ease and comfort and the joy and freedom that is in the promises, that is people talk about in the programs of recovery. It's not a struggle. It's not supposed to be me against the world, or me against them, or me against the boss, whoever. It's not about that. It's about living free from ourselves, our character defects, the feeling of powerlessness, letting go of the past, and moving forward with a new way of life. It really is, okay? Spirituality number one, okay? Find it, practice it, read about it like I did. I read Bibles, I read all kinds of spiritual books, and eventually I just practice it. I am no guru, don't meditate very much, but I sure pray, and I sure learn to let go of things in my life that I find disturbing, and sometimes I have to let them go every day in my life. Sometimes they just don't go away. They stay around, okay? They stay around for a long, long time, okay? So that's it. I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment below. If there's something you want to ask me, go up here at the top or wherever it is on my YouTube channel. You can email me directly. You can email me directly and talk to me about it. And if you want, I can do a Zoom meeting with you. I'm here to help you feel better and work on your sobriety. I don't care what program you're in. We need to find ourselves. Alcoholism, drug addiction, abuse, separated from ourselves. And really, the journey of recovery is closing that gap before we can unite with the most caring and loving person that you know, and that's yourself. That's yourself. Addiction separated us from our true self. And once you know your true self, wow, 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 you'll be blown away. You'll be like me. Where have I been all my life, okay? My name is Terry G. This is an alcohol-free life channel where we learn to live sober, one day at a time. You can take a second, please subscribe. Take another second and hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it, okay? I really, really would. Ciao for now, and thank you very much.